if you could all turn this way, please. I want to bask in your attention. No, not really. So this panel, it's all about App Store marketing, and essentially we're going to be having a little round table with these guys to try and answer some of your questions, and just to go and cover a lot of interesting topics that I hope you've all been thinking about extensively during the middle of that little break. But anyway, just to introduce myself, I'm George Osborne. Not that one, just so you know. Basically, I'm a freelance writer. I currently work for myself under my own brand of Mobile Mavericks, but in terms of my clients who I work with Pocket Gamer Biz, the Business of Apps, and I work for Bosnia Media for Mobile Games Forum a little bit, which is fun. But I'm not the interesting one. It's these lovely people here who you should be interested in. So what I'm going to do is just quickly ask them to introduce themselves and just to give you a quick little app marketing tip. But before we do that, and one important thing which I completely forgot about, I just need to say the Wi-Fi is currently down and it is being fixed. So you will be able to access Facebook soon, so please stay calm and it'll be okay. But anyway, let's go down the panel. Let's go with you first.
Hello, is this working? That sounds right.
It sounds like
Hi, my name's Tom Leclerc. I work at Wooga as the ASO manager, which involves supporting our development teams to try and get their games to be as visible as possible. And my one tip for today would be to keep your ASO ongoing. So rather than set it and forget it, once a month, return to all your keywords and all of your screenshots, everything, and reanalyze it.
Thank you very much, Tom. Go on. I think we've met you already.
Yeah. So
I introduce yourself.
Sorry.
Go on. Reintroduce yourself.
So I'm Moritz Daan. I work at SoundCloud. Just started there 2 months ago. I think I gave you already a lot of tips in the presentation how we A/B test our screenshots, but not only our screenshots, also description. We've even seen a 2% increase in having another description, and those first 3 lines are so important. Everyone knew this already, but we now also seen this in an A/B test that it is actually really important. So focus on that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Anne-Catherine Goulby. I'm in charge of App Store management at SwiftKey, and my tip would be we are an Android app, and we launched our first app on iOS in January, and that was the first time we did marketing screenshot, and that's the first time we told the story visually about our product, and that was a huge success. So try to be visual in your App Store description, in your App Store storefront, because people maybe, especially if you've got a complicated product, don't read that much, but visual works well.
Okay. And one last person. Oh, go on. We know you. You were literally on about 15 minutes ago, but go on, go again.
Well, since I'm German, I should say always score 7 goals. No, don't launch what you can't measure. I think it's really important to have your KPIs defined before you do anything of significance in terms of like user acquisition marketing in general, product changes, app store changes. So have those first, then apply it and choose the tools wisely. I think it became quite complex over the last couple of years to measure everything and make it actually comparable, because there are so many tools out there. But yeah, try to take care of that.
Okay, so those are our wonderful panelists. Thanks very much all for joining me up here. We now expect you all to have lots of wonderful questions. So does anyone have a wonderful question to ask? I'm expecting at least a dozen hands up, so no pressure, guys. There's one. Congratulations, sir. The microphone's coming your way. Hang on. Let's wait for the mic, because then I don't have to shout it back out. Thanks.
I have a question specifically for Moritz from SoundCloud, because I saw from your presentation that in order to test the different creatives for the App Store, you guys tried both replicating the landing page of the App Store, didn't you? And also testing single creatives as ads on AdWords. And I was wondering which one of the 2 methods, assuming that I understood correctly how you guys did the testing, which of the 2 methods you guys were the most satisfied with?
Yeah, so we actually went with the A/B testing tool because we were not really satisfied with the Google AdWords ad testing of our screenshots, because you pull it out of the context of the App Store. You make an ad out of it, and that has to be likable and has maybe a yellow border, whereas in the App Store you wouldn't click on that. So that's why we actually rebuilt the App Store and wanted to test it wanted to test the screenshots and all the elements in the real life stores. So that's why we went. Definitely, if you don't have the resources to build that landing page, to implement the A/B testing tool, go for Google AdWords. It's still a really good way of testing. But if you have the resources to do something like we did there, we're still improving our A/B testing tool as well. But I would suggest that. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks very much for that question. Have we got another one? Look, there's someone right at the back. There we go. Go for him, because he seems very keen. Don't you, sir? That's good. Let's just wait for, come on, a little bit of weaving. Go on, passing. Oh, it's passing along there. Look, it's like pass the parcel with a microphone. Fantastic.
Hi, Tom from AppArade. You've talked a lot about localization and changing images and metadata, so on, for the app stores. What about the names of the apps themselves? If they don't necessarily translate well into other languages, what would your advice be there?
Interesting. Go on, Tom.
I think from our point of view, we recently, we're pushing Jelly Splash, one of our most popular games in Japan, and we're working with sort of people on the ground to make sure that our app store is culturally totally 100% there, because I think that's really important. But one of the most important things is the name, obviously, and if you can, for example, Jelly Splash translates in Japanese to a very strange, you can't directly translate it. So you need to have someone on the ground who has the ASO brain to be able to tell you whether that's legitimate or not. I think basically what I'm saying is it's a very much case by case basis. For example, Boom Beach, they do both. Other apps just straight up translate. So I would say case by case, but have it decided by someone who really understands the culture of that app store, whether it's Japan, China, South Korea.
There you go. I've got Stefan winking at me slightly there.
It also depends on what you want to achieve. If you want to build a brand in general, and you have a strong name which reflects or integrates the brand, then you probably rather want to stay with this one instead of having it localized or translated. Supercell was an example which was using the translation as well as the Boom Beach brand by the end of the day in its clear English writing, so keep that in mind too. Probably if you have a productivity app or a utility application which serves a certain or which solves a certain problem for the user, it's probably really smart to translate the extension of the name or the name itself in a local language. Whereas if you have a brand like a game, I would rather think about how it should reflect that brand building in the store too.
Yeah, and Kat, actually this is one that I think is really interesting for you. What does SwiftKey do?
So SwiftKey, we've kept the name of the brand and we've localized the word keyboard, which is a functionality of the app. So we keep the brand intact and we go for localization. And we're working on extension of the title.
Okay, so it seems to be a balance of keeping your branding going as well as fitting in with sort of local cultural norms. That's interesting stuff. So have we got another question then from someone out in the audience? There we go. That's a guy in the middle in the grey. And we'll come to you.
Hi, my question is about reviews. I use the reviews as a guiding point to download apps, and I look at the screenshots. How does that fit in with what you guys have done? And have you done any testing around that? Because I think it would be foolish to do A/B testing on screenshots when your reviews are going to have an impact on everything that you do in the first place. So how do you guys get around that, and what do you do in testing?
I've recently sort of identified review mining and review mining tools as being probably, after iOS 8, is probably the next biggest step in ASO, if I had to guess. And what you can do with those reviews is, to my mind, pretty amazing. You can get an idea of what your customers think, what they're linking your brand to. There's so much information. It's as if every single customer is being handed out, or every single reviewer is giving you so much data, and we as an industry aren't really using that data. So I think, the next couple of years we're going to be seeing review mining being absolutely pivotal to ASO and understanding brand sentiment and things like that.
A recent development I've seen is that so far we've known that bots were used buying positive reviews, whereas nowadays some of your competitors might use those bots to fire against you and downrate you buying negative reviews. So be aware that reviews, as Tom said, are a major play in terms of the performance, because it reflects basically the quality of your game at the end of the day to a certain extent in the store too, and there you want to sell it in the best possible way.
Anka?
At SwiftKey we've got a dedicated community manager who keep answering reviews on Google Play, and that helps us improve ratings. So you can change your ratings by answering the review on Google Play. That's a fantastic tool. It doesn't exist on iOS yet, but it's something we pay a lot of attention to, and we have a daily report about the review, the bad reviews, how we answered them, and how then the review has changed, improved, and be corrected, and we can also see how it improves our overall ranking. Yeah, it's a precise, dedicated work, but again, your ratings it improves your overall rating, and it makes such a difference. So don't miss that one.
Yeah, there's something interesting in that as well on iOS in particular, because there's not the mechanic to actually respond to reviews. People have increasingly started to use rate and review pop-ups in which you fork users off in different directions. So you leave one, you have a pop-up which says something like, "Are you enjoying the game?" If they say yes, it directs them to review, and if you say no, it directs them to feedback. Now, there's been some concerns recently over the ethics of that, because recently there was an EA game called Dungeon Keeper, which is about as popular in gaming circles as the plague, and it essentially used that mechanic, and a lot of people felt that was essentially duping users out being able to leave an honest review on the store. I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, you want good reviews, but what are the ethics behind using such pop-ups? Should you be using them?
The point of using these review filters is to give the people that download your app a better experience, and it's that simple. If you're using it for any other purpose, then expect to be ban-hammered, or expect to have bad things happen, I imagine. But you can easily use it to filter off people who have a negative experience straight to customer care, or straight to an FAQ, or whatever you've got to support it. Giving those people the best experience they can is what that tool is there for. But I guess Dungeon Keeper didn't.
Yeah, exactly. And anyone else got any thoughts on this, or how about you, Morris?
Yeah, so I do think that a lot of people will go into the App Store to complain about stuff that went wrong, but not a lot of people, if the app just functions, they don't go to the App Store. So I think it's a great way to actually get some more positive reviews than, because if you wouldn't do it, it would only be, not only be, but there would be a lot more negative reviews, and it would not really picture how users would feel about the app. So I don't have any problems with that.
Okay, so it's a useful tool apparently for basically getting hold of what users really feel and helping direct them to the relevant channels as well, so you can properly work on their feedback, I guess, which is really good. I think we had a couple of questions down the front, so I'd like to go to this gentleman first, then Matt. Are you next? In fact, you're going first. There we go. Sorry about that.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Quickly on those reviews. We just heard that if you update you should update your app frequently with screenshots and new sales text. But if you have an app like we have a healthcare app that ranks high and have lots of 5-star reviews, when we update the app, we lose all our reviews and we start from zero. And that actually stops us updating the app and only try to do that 2 or 3 times a year. So it's a bit conflicting to say update your app frequently. I think that's not so great for apps with a lot of 5-star reviews.
Okay, that's a really interesting point. So what are the pros and cons of updating your ASO regularly? You know, it seems to be that obviously the pro is to keep yourself on top of things, but there does seem to be some cons as well. I mean, how do you find the balance, I guess?
Personally, from my day-to-day experience, I don't experience a kind of negative aspect of that at all, but I sort of see where you're coming from, but...
Just goes if we have 4,000 or 5,000 good reviews and then you drop all of a sudden to 0 reviews, people will be affected.
But the previous reviews are always they're always shown to users downloading the app. They're not completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's just on the first page, of course, in the App Store. It will show no stars whatsoever, and you only can go there when you click on the actual review page, and then you see the previous review. So for a week or two, you're almost empty.
Well, this week you could cover, if you have a great, pool of beta testers, a community, an email list with existing users, where you know they are loyal to your product already, and then you have an announcement, at the date of launch saying, hey guys, we're up and live, new version is here, this is the feature, if you like it, don't hesitate to give us 5 stars and a great review. So you kind of counterbalance this effect where you drop or where you take out the actual reviews or the current reviews in a previous version setup. So yeah, that's usually an advice or a way we go. You have a community set which helps you to overcome this period of time.
Yeah, using your evangelists is a really important tactic, and I think SwiftKey actually has one of the best evangelists around in the form of Stephen Fry. So he went out on Twitter and tweeted about the SwiftKey no launch. I mean, does that make any impact having someone like that? Can they help to really sort of boost the overall profile of your app and perhaps those reviews at the same time?
Yeah, for sure. Stephen Fry's tweet on Note was had a massive impact. Our Twitter accounts exploded. I can't be too specific about the number of this impact, but yeah, we're very happy he's in our team, and we hope he stay on board for many more apps and products.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got a question here. Sorry, it's taking very long to reach you.
Yeah, my name is An and from TNware. So I have a question about the A/B testing. I'm really curious because when a lot of people do the A/B testing, you do the launch page and so on. I'm just wondering why don't we open another account or maybe just launch the app exactly the same, but then change it a little bit, twisting it. I think that's really real data, and then you can compare between the existing app with the new revised version of changing the description, the screenshot. What do you think? Is it better?
Well, for SoundCloud, that wouldn't really work because I mean, the downloads that we are getting is also because of not only our ASO efforts, but also because of the ranking that we have. Of course, we are in the top rankings, and if we would go out and launch a new app with a different icon or something, that wouldn't get as much downloads as our original app. So how can we compare those two? But maybe for indie developers, this would be a nice way of testing.
Yeah, Stefan, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, it's a kind of limitation to the whole, App Store environment, basically, where you don't have access to certain data sets or insights. So in that particular case, maybe, but still with the big grayish area around, you could go in an isolated country or a more isolated market where you say, okay, I'm not so ranked high. Usually blogs and review sites don't cover me that much. I don't run any extra paid user acquisition, and then you see, after a change, pre-post, the effect of, new screenshots or something. But still, I mean, just at the same time you change the screenshots and you run a new version, maybe someone picks it up. The re-engagement rate is automatically higher, which has an impact on the ranking. You never know. So it's still a fragile thing to say this had this effect, rather than going, you do it once, you optimize your stuff, your metadata, then you move on with all your other marketing things and try to leverage as much knowledge out of those effects into the impact of ASO.
So are there any ways that you can actually go about maybe testing those assets sort of in somewhere else? So obviously the App Store, I mean, they're bringing in tools that will help you measure conversion fairly soon in iOS 8, but are there ways that you can go out and test it somewhere else?
You can, within the iOS.
Either within the ecosystem or by using other tactics like maybe advertising.
You could definitely use a set of countries that you would put one set of screenshots in, and then have another set of countries, so that you can even out the specific trends in a certain country. Because we've seen that it's really hard in some countries. So sometimes we have some trending audio that would cost a lot more downloads. So it's really hard for us to test that way. But if you have a set of countries and you have this actual iTunes Connect 3 data, then it could be an interesting way to test it within the actual App Store.
Yeah. On Android, you can choose one of those alternative stores, for example. Yeah. Just to do the changes there first, see how it impacts the downloads, the download volume there.
Yeah, and I mean, just sort of something that I'd add as well is that I was interviewing someone earlier this year who's starting, they started a service up called Splitforce, who offer I think are looking to offer a service which involves basically the entire A/B testing of apps. I'm not sure how they're progressing, but Splitforce would be a name that I might go and check out if you were interested in looking at that angle a bit more. So are there any other questions that we can spy anywhere else? I mean, there must be, oh, there we go, right in the middle. There we are.
Hi, you've talked earlier about localization and the importance of getting native speakers to review the descriptions and obviously the terms that you're going to target. My question is, how would you go about prioritizing those terms that you're going to target without having that understanding? Because obviously the people that are going to be doing the reviewing of the translations aren't necessarily going to have that understanding. So how do you take their language insight and your ASO insight and kind of match the two together to know which terms to prioritize?
It's a really good point, and I think it's something that people tend to forget about localization, is that when you localize your keywords or text, whatever you're localizing, if it's based on an algorithm, you then need to find some data point to see whether that translated word is actually viable. So once you've translated your keywords, you then need to sort of reanalyze those translated keywords using whatever tool that you use to establish your English keywords. So, for example, I generally use Sensor Tower or Mobile Dev HQ to analyze my English keywords. Then they get translated and localized, sometimes double. So sometimes I'll ask translators to translate those words twice, so that I then get a larger choice of keywords, and I can analyze those, pick out the bad ones, and let the good ones go through. So that for me works pretty well, but it's very labor intensive, and sometimes you have to ask, is this actually viable? So it's problematic, but it's doable.
Okay, so go on then, Kat.
I remember back in the day, it was the beginning of App Store optimization. There was no tools, and I remember looking for a list of keywords for iOS, and it was you put a keyword on iTunes, and you see how many entries you have for these keywords, and you do that you localize the storefront, and you test your keyword for many languages. And the result at the time you get was that it's very different set of keywords for every country. So if you base only on your English English set, you might miss a lot. One thing I remember, we had this app for Valentine's Day, and we put some special events in the keywords for in Asia, and that we climbed the ranking in Asia. And so be smart about your keywords and be cultural about your keywords.
Okay, that's cool. And so just as a sort of a supplementary question to that, there was talk of tools, actually. I mean, what tools are people actually using for their ASO? Are you using just one tool in particular, or do you use certain tools within combination? I guess, I mean, how do you do it, Stefan?
It's a mix of various tools. First, apply common sense, right? You understand your product, you know the service, write down those 10, 15, 20 initial ones. With games, it's a little bit different though. And then you add up stuff like, Google Trends, Google Keyword Volume, you kind of re-engineer what search is coming up with on the web, and you benchmark those kinds of volumes in order to prioritize your keywords. You can have a look on the reviews. Tom, I think, mentioned that. There's so much stuff in those reviews of maybe your competitor, because people usually tend to use natural language and apply certain, sayings about this application. Maybe you can pick up 1, 2 more out of this source. You could go farther, Sensor Tower, Mobile Dev HQ, App Annie, now with the new ASO keyword tool in place to avoid those manual tracking.
Time-consuming,
Stuff like that. You could ask if you have a website already or a web service, of course, ask your SEO team. I mean, people looking up your service on the web might be an indication, obviously, what they might look for in the App Store too when it comes to your application.
Exactly. And Moritz, have you got any insight into this? Are there any tools that you've particularly found to be the best, I guess?
So we're using Mobile Dev HQ and Sensor Tower. Mobile Dev HQ, I use that mainly for keeping track of all the rankings for different keywords and keyword phrases. And Sensor Tower, I like that they actually give a number to volume. So 5.1 if it's pretty good keyword, and a 3 if it's a bad keyword. And I try to pull out all this data and pull it in a big Excel sheet with other multipliers like, we have house music, of course, but if I would target on house, I would also have the traffic from people looking for real estate, so giving a penalty for such keywords and then trying to come up. Also, the length of a keyword is really important because you only have those 100 characters. So basically what I came up with is something called the keyword opportunity index, and that's based on all this different data from those sources, and that's where I try to that's how I try to pick the keywords for SoundCloud. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for, as it is time for a very important coffee break, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm sure that if you have any more questions, which I'm sure you will have, I'm sure these other people will be willing to go and answer them. But could I just have a quick round of applause for all of our panelists?